Hi there, everyone. Namaste. I'm Jill Loftus of Nuit Astrology, and I'd like to welcome you to a brief overview of the astrology of October 2023. I have not had time to do these monthlies. I hope to get back to that, but when I was working on my monthly memberships, I took a look at October and was like, wow, I did not remember that it was such a tense month. And I really think it requires some management. And so I'm filming this in the hopes that you'll have a little bit of a heads up. This is a month where you should definitely have your preparedness things available to you. I talk about this all the time, but this is definitely a time period in history where, the typical things that you count on are not always there. We found that out, in the pandemic, right? Who knew toilet paper would become such an asset, right? But we're entering another phase where it's just going to be some difficult astrology. And I'm not predicting another shutdown or anything like that. But I'm telling you, the month of October is tense, okay? And there are some eclipses coming, which eclipses are activators and make things get a little bit more extreme. There's some difficult Mars-Pluto energy coming that could be really tricky. And so I'm just going to run through the month and give you a heads up, all right? But your basic preparedness, I'm going back through this weekend, make sure my food stores are topped off, make sure my gas tank isn't on E in my car, make sure, I'm just a little more ready for whatever might happen. And I'm being cautious not to overschedule my October. I'm keeping it tight, hanging with close people and friends, getting away for a little yoga retreat, some things like that. It's not a time to engage in strong conflict energy because it will find you, okay? So staying not resonant with anger is a good way also to manage this energy, right? And that means processing anything that's within your soul, okay? We can talk about more about that later. All right, let's start out as we begin the month. Now, as we begin the month, Venus, which is moving forward in Leo, about to get out of her shadow zone, right? She begins to pick up a square to Uranus and Taurus. This can bring sudden shocking events. Anytime Uranus is there, it can bring magical synchronicities, but it also can bring an element of shock and awe. So you have to kind of expect the unexpected between those two areas of life, Leo and Taurus. And again, with that, emphasis on values and money that Venus sometimes has, that Taurus is also, because that's her sign, right? It could be financial things that are shocking or unexpected. This, of course, can be positive, right? But you have to stay a little bit more nimble and change adept when you have these kinds of energies. Venus is also picking up some really nice energy to the nodes of the moon, so blessing some of those karmic beams, which is good, which is very, very positive. And also is in a nice connection to Mars as it's beginning to finish up its move through Libra. Keep in mind, we also are coming out of the Mercury shadow zone as we enter into October. So both Mercury and Venus are getting out of their shadow. Venus doesn't get out to the 6th, right? But you're going to begin to feel that sense of forward momentum that we really haven't felt for the last few months. Pluto is, however, as we begin the month, at 27 degrees, which is the same degree, it's not the same minute, but it's the same degree as the United States Pluto. Remember, the United States as a country is an infant. It's not very old. This is our first Pluto return, and that's part of why so many things have been coming up to be purged, to be seen, and to be healed. So I would expect this is the final hit. It's not going to happen again in our lifetime. It's the final hit at 27 degrees of Capricorn. And so there are going to be some completions of some themes that have started over the last couple years. And that alone could be really tricky and difficult. Okay. Change adept. You've got to be change adept. All right. Now the Mars in Libra is also coming together with the South Node in Libra, and they're going to kind of hang out a good deal of the month. And remember, the South Node tends to take things away. It tends to be decrease. And Mars is action-oriented, right? Mars does not dig being in Libra. Mars does not want to consult with his partner about where he's going, what he's doing, right? This is really going to highlight any kind of negative shadow Libra energy that you have in your chart and that we have in the collective. What is shadow Libra? Shadow Libra can be just fluffy or making connections only because of social climbing or gains. Shadow Libra is passive-aggressive behaviors. Even if you're just trying to avoid conflict and you're like, sure, I'll do that. Meanwhile, you're like, I don't want to do that, right? That's shadow Libra. Saying, sure, yes, when you actually mean no. Not setting appropriate boundaries, right? I was just talking about this the other day. I'm a Libra rising, so I totally get it. You know, so often you encounter people who push up against you and you just don't want to argue or fight or create any conflict, right? So you take a giant step backwards and they keep gaining on you until you're in a corner. And then you still have to stand up for yourself. And then you've lost all that territory or money or self-respect in the process, right? So those shadow behaviors are going to really surface. So tune up and tune in to the people who matter to you in your life that you partner with, whether they're lovers, your spouse, a business partner, anybody that you're collaborating with. You're going to really watch, and those negative relationships are going to be highlighted. And so you have to go across the sky to Aries and be a little bit more independent, be a little bit more assertive, right? And hopefully be a little bit more optimistic. Okay. Now Mercury in Virgo is going to step into, just on the 2nd of the month, into an opposition with Neptune, right? Bringing this kind of little bit, Mercury in Virgo normally has quite a bit of clarity, but standing right across the sky from Neptune could be some really confusing moments, a lack of clarity or uncertainty where to move forward, right? Don't go punching in the dark. Take a moment, step back, assess, okay? And then Mercury in Virgo is going to trine to the Pluto in Capricorn. I'm really loving that, and I see that as the last gasp of Pluto in Capricorn coming together with Mercury saying to you, hey, this is the completion stage of this transit for you and for the collective. See the reality of it, okay? Then Mercury on the 4th will move into Libra. So definitely, again, that partnership vibe being highlighted, lots of conversations. What is a healthy partnership? What is not a healthy partnership? What are your boundaries, right? Good fences make good neighbors. Now that Mars in Libra begins on the 5th to square to Pluto. I do not like this. I feel like this can be violence. This can be accidents. So as you will always hear me say, when Mars and Pluto tangle, chop your vegetables more slowly, drive your car more slowly, watch just, average anger outbursts that makes you resonant with those difficult energies. If you get the instinct that you should leave something or not go somewhere or not talk to somebody or not do something, listen to those instincts, right? Try not to be resonant. And it's in the 25 to 27 degree range, and it goes until October 14th. So that time range, I want you to just be so careful, okay? Now, on the 6th, Venus moves out of the shadow zone in Leo, which is going to be helpful. But then we have Venus moving into Virgo on the 8th of the month. Completely different vibe, right? This has been the summer of Venus in Leo, right? And now she goes into Virgo, and she's a little more uptight, and she's a little bit more peculiar and particular and critical, and particularly critical of yourself. So watch that deep inner critic and use instead that fabulous Virgo vibe in order to assess and edit and clean up and focus more on your own health and your own health routines and like how you take care of yourself. That can be a really beautiful way of doing the energy. All right. Keep in mind also that when Venus comes to that late degree of Leo and then steps into Virgo, she's going to be standing across the sky from Saturn. This could really amplify that kind of harsh inner critic, and also almost feel like it's going to be like a takedown. Like this has been such a summer of women and beauty and celebrating this, and then all of a sudden there could be just some really, particularly religious or patriarchal structures that come in and are like, yeah, no, we're not doing this anymore. So watch out for that. On the 10th, we're going to watch Pluto pause at 27, right? Stationary, direct. So beginning to move forward. Anytime one of those outer planet stations pauses in the sky, it brings this huge, like, boom, like, oh, wow, this is what's going on. So you want to mark your calendar for the 10th and really see the lay of the land, read the symbolism in your personal life and in the bigger world. Okay, it's also the precise Venus-Saturn opposition, so you're really going to see that. And then on the 11th, Mars starts to slip into the very late degrees of Libra. Anytime any planet moves to the late degrees, there's a push to completion. Mars, you're going to notice it a little bit more. And on the 12th, it slips into Scorpio. Whole new vibe. All right? Mars is leading the way. The sun will be there in just a few days, right? And when Mars goes into Scorpio, it's actually going to pick up a nice trine to Saturn in Pisces. And I have to tell you, from the middle of the month on, Saturn is our friend, which is, Saturn is not always our friend, right? Sometimes he is the dark angel of learning, but Saturn is your friend. And the way to max out Saturn in Pisces is to structure your spiritual journey. Be meditating, be praying, be tapped into your angels and guides. Try to understand what it is that you really believe. Who is there to really help you, right? It can really feel like the floor is moving beneath you, right? But it's just kind of like surfing, right? And like you start to find that rhythm by tapping in, okay? The answer isn't really out there, it's within, all right? We have our first eclipse on the 14th. It's new moon solar eclipse. It's at 21 degrees 7 minutes in the sign of Libra, 1:55 p.m. And again, sometimes eclipses, even if it's a new moon, it kind of feels like an ending. And this is really going to highlight because it's right there with the North Node, right? Mercury and the moon, all and the sun, all in Libra, right? So they're all merging together, and it's just really going to highlight those partnership vibes. They're also, of course, going to be across the sky from the North Node, and they're going to step into an opposition with Chiron, which is in Aries too. So absolutely a new moon to kind of reset your relationship vibe and learn to high vibe that Libra energy. All right. On the 19th, I told you, such a busy month. We're going to have the merging of the sun with Mercury, all right? So again, this kind of fogs it out, gives it a little bit of a, miscommunication, retrograde quality, and then the sun will swallow it and empower it. And so you want to look for the insights that come on October 19th. Looking at the 20th, you got to think of the South Node, Mercury, and the Sun all like linked arms in Libra. Like one cannot go where the other is. And so there's this huge emphasis on the Libran area of your chart. You got to really look and see what that information is telling you, right? Make sure when you say no, you mean it. We're also beginning to pick up some really nice Venus in Virgo, Jupiter energy over there in Taurus, right? A nice little earth trine between the two benefics. This will also help us through this difficult energy, okay? This kind of help us kind of heal after the trauma of that Mars-Pluto. On the 27th, Mercury is going to go into Scorpio. So now we've got Mars in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio, and the Sun goes into Scorpio on the 23rd. Distinct vibe change, right? The beginning of the month, the end of the month. It's like Libra, Scorpio, Scorpio, right? It's going to be a powerful Halloween, All Hallows Eve, Samhain kind of energy at the end of this month. So happy solar return, my dear Scorps. And that sun, again, anything that's coming through those early degrees of Scorpio are going to trine over to Saturn. Thank you, Saturn, for stabilizing things a little bit. Fantastic water energy. Absolutely be tuned into your intuition and do the things that help you locate your intuition. Normally, I would tell you really ground, but honestly, go soak in the tub if you have a problem. Okay, like go float in the float tank. All right. Now, on October 26th, we begin to have Mercury coming within 2 degrees of Scorpio. Man, that means they're functioning together. This is an intensity of feelings, and you just got to make sure that Scorpio energy just wants facts. It wants reality. It wants truth. It wants depth. It does not want to fluff, right? It's not a Libra. Oh, socially, how are you? It's like, what are you taking my time for? I have things to do, right? That's my take on Scorpio energy. I love Scorpios. They're just so straightforward. But yeah, so just, that's going to bring really, it's going to reveal some facts and some realities that, you have to face those realities, right? It's the little kid in the crowd saying, hey man, the emperor has no clothes, if you remember that story from childhood. All right. Now, on the 27th, that Mercury-Mars connection are going to step into an opposition with Jupiter. And so balance, moderation, chilling out, don't overdo, that could really set some things off. And so you're looking at the 8 to 12 degree range in your chart, so watch that. And then we have our full moon lunar eclipse is 5 degrees 9 minutes in the sign of Taurus. It's going to be the last Taurus eclipse we have for a while because they're going to be moving into Aries. It's at 4:24 p.m. Eastern, and it is the aspects are tough, okay? Before the moon moves into Taurus, it's going to be in Aries and it's going to square Pluto, okay? And then it's going to void on the 28th from 4:20 a.m. till 7:44 a.m. Mercury and Mars are going to merge together, be exactly opposite Jupiter at 11 degrees, just a few degrees away from the full moon. So just caution flags up. Now we are having a nice sextile from this full moon over to Saturn. Again, Saturn is our friend. You may have to put in some real effort. And Venus in Virgo is beginning to move into a trine with Uranus because Uranus is moving backwards, right? In Taurus. And so at the beginning of the month, we start out with the square and then we finish with the trine. So it's almost like whatever breaks down at the beginning of the month, you start to begin to use that Virgo vision to solve the problem at the end of the month. But this is, again, it's an eclipse, man. Don't overschedule. And I tell you this every time. I always walk away from an eclipse going, yep, I did a good job. And it smacks me so hard, like a day after. So don't just, get through that 24 hours and think you've got it, man. Stay nimble, stay adaptive, stay change adept. All right. Yeah, and then we finish up on the 31st, the precise trine from Venus to Uranus. Mars and Mercury are still walking hand in hand as they move into the month of November and still standing across from Jupiter. So I'm really seeing this as one of those things where somewhat taking like the traditional route in your rituals would be great. Research maybe, things that you've done in your lineage throughout history, right? And really like tap into some of that magic, even if it's just ritually having a fire, having some herbs, mugwort, whatever. Tapping into some of those ancient rituals. Magic is kind of in the air as we get to the end of the month, and I think that will help us to adapt to some of the changes that are going to be required in order to manage October skillfully. All right. I hope this was useful and helpful. As you know, there is always a blog on my website for each month. Gives all the astrology, and then I have another one each week. And of course, I will be posting videos each week throughout this cycle to help you monitor the energy, and also we'll do the Isis Lotus Tarot, which is also very helpful in managing these changes. Please drop your comments below. Also, I was thinking the other day, this sounds a little strange, I guess, but and if you're still here, thank you for listening, about doing like a preparedness video. I've talked about some of that stuff before, but I have learned a few things over the years, so I'd be happy to share that information with you if you guys are interested. All right. Namaste.